You're about to get that promotion you've worked years for, but suddenly you show up late to the final meeting. You're in the best relationship of your life, but you pick a fight over nothing. You're finally losing weight, but you binge eat the night before your weigh-in. Sound familiar? What if I told you that your brain is literally wired to destroy the very things you want most? Today, we're uncovering the hidden psychology behind self-sabotage and why your mind betrays you at the worst possible moments. Welcome to Marjan Al-Nalar. Make sure to subscribe and drop a comment about which psychology topic you'd like me to cover next. Let's talk about Sarah. She's a marketing executive who's been climbing the corporate ladder for 5 years. Smart, dedicated, respected by her colleagues. But here's the thing. Every time she gets close to a major breakthrough, something goes wrong. Not because of external circumstances, but because of her own actions. Last month, she had a presentation that could secure the biggest client her company had ever landed. The night before, instead of reviewing her notes one final time, she stayed up until 3 a.m. reorganizing her closet. She walked into that boardroom exhausted, unprepared, and watched her opportunity slip away. This isn't laziness. This isn't bad luck. This is self-sabotage in action. Most people think self-sabotage is obvious, like procrastinating on important deadlines or picking fights with loved ones. But the reality is far more subtle and insidious. Self-sabotage doesn't announce itself with dramatic gestures. It whispers. It shows up as that extra drink when you're trying to be healthy. It's the small comment that ruins a perfect evening. It's the decision to check social media instead of working on your passion project. Here's what makes self-sabotage so dangerous. It feels rational in the moment. Your brain creates perfectly logical reasons for these destructive choices. You're not reorganizing your closet to avoid success. You're just being productive. You're not picking that fight to push love away. You're just standing up for yourself. But underneath these surface justifications lies a deeper truth. Your subconscious mind is working overtime to keep you exactly where you are. Not because it hates you, but because it's trying to protect you from what it perceives as danger. And success, change, and growth? To your ancient brain, these things are terrifying. Think about the last time you sabotaged yourself. Maybe you didn't follow through on a business idea that excited you. Maybe you pushed away someone who genuinely cared about you. Maybe you abandoned a health routine just when you were seeing results. Now, here's the uncomfortable question. What were you afraid would happen if you actually succeeded? Your brain is a time traveler stuck in the wrong century. While you're worried about quarterly reports and Instagram likes, your amygdala, the brain's alarm system, is scanning for saber-toothed tigers and tribal rejection. This ancient part of your brain hasn't received the memo that we live in a modern world, where the biggest daily threat is running out of coffee. To understand why you sabotage yourself, you need to understand this. Your brain's primary job isn't to make you happy or successful. It's to keep you alive. And for most of human history, being too ambitious, too different, or too successful could literally get you killed. When our ancestors lived in small tribes, standing out too much could lead to exile, which meant death. Being too successful might make you a target for violence or theft. Even positive attention could be dangerous if it triggered jealousy or resentment from people you needed for survival. Your amygdala still operates on these rules. When you're about to give a presentation that could advance your career, it doesn't see an opportunity. It sees potential social exposure and judgment. When you're falling in love, it doesn't see joy. It sees vulnerability and dependence on someone who might abandon you. This is why your heart races before important opportunities. It's why you feel physically sick when you're about to take a meaningful risk. Your nervous system is preparing for a threat that exists only in your evolutionary memory. Your brain has two main operating systems, the conscious mind and the subconscious mind. Your conscious mind is like the CEO. It makes logical decisions, sets goals, and creates plans. But your subconscious mind is like the security department. It's constantly running background programs to keep you safe, and it has veto power over everything. When these two systems disagree, guess who wins? The security department. Every single time. This is why you can consciously want success while unconsciously sabotaging it. Your logical mind sees the promotion as a good thing. but your subconscious mind flags it as dangerous. More responsibility means more ways to fail. More visibility means more criticism. More success means higher expectations we might not meet. Understanding this isn't about blame. It's about recognizing that self-sabotage isn't a character flaw. It's a normal response from a nervous system trying to protect you from threats that no longer exist. Your identity, the story you tell yourself about who you are, is both your greatest source of security and your biggest obstacle to change. Your brain would rather keep you miserable and consistent than happy and uncertain. Why? Because consistency equals predictability, and predictability equals safety to your ancient nervous system. I'm just not a morning person. I'm bad with money. I'm not the type who goes to the gym. I'm not good at relationships. These aren't just casual observations about yourself. They're the bars of an invisible prison that keeps you locked in patterns of self-sabotage. Your identity serves as a psychological GPS system. It tells you what to expect from life, how to behave in different situations, and what outcomes are possible for someone like you. When you operate within your established identity, everything feels familiar and manageable, even if it's not particularly fulfilling. But when you try to grow beyond your current identity, when you attempt to become someone who earns more money, has better relationships, or takes better care of their health, your brain hits the panic button. You're not just changing your behavior, you're threatening the very foundation of who you think you are. Let's say you've always identified as the struggling artist. This identity comes with certain beliefs. Real artists don't care about money, commercial success compromises artistic integrity, and financial struggle proves your dedication to your craft. When a lucrative opportunity appears, your identity protection system kicks in. You might find yourself procrastinating on the proposal, setting your prices too low, or finding reasons why the opportunity isn't authentic enough. The most insidious part is how your identity creates its own evidence. Your brain constantly scans for information that confirms who you think you are, while filtering out anything that contradicts your self-concept. If you believe you're not good with technology, you'll unconsciously avoid opportunities to prove yourself wrong. This filtering system doesn't just affect your behavior, it shapes your perception of reality itself. You literally see and experience a version of the world that confirms who you think you are. The tragedy is that most people mistake their identity for truth, defending these limitations as if they're protecting something precious. Now that you understand why you self-sabotage, let's talk about how to stop doing it. The first thing you need to accept is this: you can't eliminate self-sabotage completely, and you shouldn't try. These patterns developed to protect you, and they're not going to disappear just because you understand them intellectually. What you can do is learn to recognize them earlier, respond to them differently, and gradually reduce their power over your life. Think of self-sabotage like an overprotective friend who means well but doesn't understand your current situation. You don't need to hate this friend or cut them out entirely. You need to help them understand that the old rules don't apply anymore. The most effective approach starts with awareness. You need to become intimately familiar with your personal self-sabotage signatures, the specific ways your protective mechanisms show up. Do you procrastinate when opportunities arise? Do you pick fights when relationships get close? Do you abandon healthy habits right when they start working? Create a self-sabotage inventory. For the next week, notice every time you act against your stated goals or values. Don't judge it, just observe it. What were you feeling right before it happened? What thoughts were running through your mind? What was happening in your life that might have triggered your protective systems? Most people discover their self-sabotage follows predictable patterns. Maybe you always sabotage when you're stressed. Maybe it happens when you feel like you're getting too much attention. Maybe it shows up when you're about to outgrow your current environment or relationships. Once you identify your patterns, you can start catching them earlier in the process. Instead of realizing you've been sabotaging yourself after the damage is done, you'll start noticing the warning signs, the subtle anxiety, the urge to avoid important tasks, the impulse to create unnecessary drama. Here's a crucial insight. The goal is not to fight these urges or force yourself to act differently through willpower alone. The goal is to understand what your nervous system is trying to protect you from and address those underlying concerns directly. When you feel the urge to sabotage, pause and ask yourself, what am I afraid will happen if I succeed here? What feels threatening about this situation? Once you've identified your specific fears, you can start addressing them systematically, using what I call titrating change. Instead of making dramatic shifts that trigger your protection systems, make changes so small that your nervous system barely notices them. If you want to exercise regularly but always sabotage fitness routines, start with just putting on workout clothes. If you want to build a business but procrastinate on important tasks, commit to working for just 5 minutes a day. If you want to improve your relationships but fear vulnerability, share one small authentic thing about yourself each week. These micro changes might seem insignificant, but they're building new neural pathways without activating your threat detection systems. Each small success creates evidence that change can be safe, gradually expanding your comfort zone without overwhelming your protective mechanisms. The key is reframing your relationship with discomfort. Most people interpret the anxiety and resistance that accompany growth as signs they're doing something wrong. But this discomfort is actually a sign you're doing something right. You're moving beyond familiar territory into expansion. Learn to distinguish between productive discomfort and genuine danger signals. Productive discomfort feels like nervousness mixed with excitement. Your body is activated, but not panicked. Danger signals feel like overwhelming dread, physical symptoms that don't match the situation, or complete emotional shutdown. When you feel productive discomfort, practice staying present with it instead of immediately seeking relief through sabotage behaviors. Breathe deeply. Remind yourself that this feeling is temporary, and take the next small step forward anyway. Breaking free from identity-based self-sabotage requires recognizing that your current self-concept is just one possible version of who you could be. You're not the same person you were 10 years ago, yet you probably can't pinpoint exactly when you changed. Identity is fluid and constantly evolving, but our brains create the illusion that it's fixed and permanent. Start noticing when you use phrases like, "I'm just not," or "I've never been good at." These statements aren't objective truths. They're beliefs that have become self-fulfilling prophecies. Instead of, "I'm not a morning person," try, "I'm someone who's learning to appreciate mornings." Instead of, "I'm bad with money," experiment with, "I'm developing better financial habits." This isn't just positive thinking. It's creating space for new possibilities within your self-concept. The most important element of breaking free from self-sabotage is developing genuine self-compassion. Most people try to overcome self-sabotage by being harder on themselves, thinking that harsh self-criticism will motivate better behavior. This approach always backfires because criticism activates the same threat detection systems that create self-sabotage in the first place. Your inner critic isn't trying to help you improve. It is trying to keep you safe by preventing you from taking risks that might lead to failure or rejection. When you attack yourself for self-sabotaging, you're actually reinforcing the very fear that caused the sabotage. Instead, practice treating yourself the way you'd treat a good friend who was struggling with the same issues. You'd be understanding, patient, and encouraging while still helping them move forward. You'd acknowledge their fears without letting those fears control their decisions. When you catch yourself sabotaging, try responding with curiosity instead of judgment. "That's interesting. I wonder what I was afraid of there. What was my protective system trying to help me avoid?" This approach gathers information instead of creating shame, making it easier to make different choices next time. Build a support system of people who understand your growth journey and won't unconsciously pressure you to stay the same. Sometimes family and old friends, despite their good intentions, reinforce your self-sabotage by expecting you to remain in familiar roles and patterns. Surround yourself with people who celebrate your evolution rather than feeling threatened by it. This might mean joining new communities, finding mentors who've walked similar paths, or working with professionals who understand the psychology of change. Remember that overcoming self-sabotage is a skill that develops over time, not a switch you can flip. Some days you'll catch your patterns early and redirect successfully. Other days you'll fall into old habits and need to begin again. Both are normal parts of the process. The goal isn't perfection, it's increasing your awareness, reducing the frequency and intensity of self-sabotage, and building the skills to recover more quickly when it happens. Your self-sabotage patterns took years to develop. Give yourself permission to take time unraveling them. Every moment of awareness, every small step forward, every act of self-compassion is rewiring your brain toward greater freedom and authentic success. So here we are, at the end of our journey into the hidden world of self-sabotage. If you've made it this far, you already know more about your own psychology than most people learn in a lifetime. Let me leave you with this thought. Your self-sabotage isn't your enemy. It never was. It's been your bodyguard, working overtime to protect you from threats that felt real and dangerous. The problem is your bodyguard is still using an outdated threat assessment system, treating career opportunities like charging lions and intimate relationships like hostile territory. But now you have the tools to update that system. You understand why your brain creates these patterns? It's not because you're broken or weak, but because you have a very human brain doing its very human job of trying to keep you safe. The path forward isn't about perfection. It's not about never sabotaging yourself again or suddenly becoming fearless. It's about building awareness, practicing self-compassion, and gradually expanding your comfort zone in ways that feel safe to your nervous system. Remember Sarah from our first chapter? 6 months after recognizing her self-sabotage patterns, she still felt nervous before big presentations. The difference was, she now understood what that nervousness meant, and had strategies to work with it instead of against it. She started preparing differently, not by reorganizing her closet at midnight, but by acknowledging her fears directly. She'd tell her nervous system, "I know you're trying to protect me, but this opportunity is safe. We can handle whatever happens." She didn't land every opportunity after that, but she stopped sabotaging herself out of the ones that mattered most. More importantly, she stopped hating herself for having protective instincts in the first place. This is what success looks like when you understand self-sabotage. Not the elimination of fear, but a different relationship with it. Not perfect confidence, but the willingness to move forward despite uncertainty. Not the absence of protective patterns, but the ability to recognize them and choose your response. Your journey with self-sabotage is uniquely yours. The specific ways it shows up, the particular fears it's protecting you from, and the path to healing it will be different from anyone else's. But the fundamental truth remains the same. You have the power to update the protective systems that no longer serve you. Change is possible, growth is safe, and the very awareness that brought you to this moment is proof that you're already breaking free from patterns that once felt permanent and unchangeable. You are not broken. You never were. You're just human, with a very human brain trying to keep you safe. Now you get to teach it what safety really looks like in your modern life. If this resonated with you, I'd love to hear about it. What patterns did you recognize in your own life? What was your biggest takeaway from today's exploration into self-sabotage? Drop a comment below and let me know which aspect hit closest to home. Was it the ancient brain programming, the identity prison, or the practical strategies for change? Your insights might be exactly what another viewer needs to hear to feel less alone in their struggles. And hey, if you found value in this deep exploration of human psychology, make sure you're subscribed to Marjan Al-Nalar, because we're just getting started. There are so many fascinating aspects of the human mind we haven't explored yet, from the psychology of procrastination to the neuroscience of habit formation, to the hidden patterns that drive our relationships. What topic would you like me to tackle next? Comment below with your suggestions. Maybe you're curious about why we repeat relationship patterns, or how perfectionism really works, or what's really happening when we can't stop scrolling social media. I read every comment, and your suggestions directly shape what we explore together. Remember, understanding your mind isn't just intellectual curiosity. It's the foundation for creating a life that actually aligns with who you're becoming, not who you've been conditioned to believe you are. Until next time, be patient with yourself as you unlearn the patterns that kept you small and learn the ones that will help you grow. You've got this.